Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out a Reddit thread called "Without Barriers, the British Still Know How to Queue." I saw this photo and I was flabbergasted. I've heard throughout these videos that Brits are very fond of queuing and they're very good at it, but I had no idea it was like this. Look at this. There are some barriers here on the left, but look at these lines. Look at that. That would never happen in America. Ever. Nowhere. It's amazing. It looks like... I don't understand. This tells me that Britain is the promised land, promised to us by God. Look at that. Amazing. People respecting other people. Who would have thought? Never in America would this happen. Ever. Unless there were maybe just a bunch of British people in one spot. Mezpeg says, being British and rarely traveling alone, I had never really noticed how other countries aren't that fond of queuing until this year. I was flying to Cairo and had a stopover in Frankfurt. And when I came to boarding, everyone just stood around in like 5 different lines, pushing to get to the front. Yeah. I literally didn't know what to do, so I just stood quietly to the side and waited for it to die down. After about 5 minutes, there were about 10 other people behind me, all looking over in a mixture of confusion and disgust. Turns out I'm so British, I had started a queue of other British people without realizing. Obviously, being British, I didn't actually speak to them to find out. But I overheard a few cheers, and that confirmed my suspicions. Wow. Amazing. It's like the Brits can't help but queue. This person said, you're like a general leading his fellow Brits onto the plane in an orderly fashion, tutting at the enemy as you go. I would proudly serve under you, General. Wow. I would follow you into the depths of Malachor V, General. I don't know what that is, but... General, another settlement needs your help. I'll mark it on your map. This person's German. And they say, I'm German. And this happens to me all the time, too. But in Germany, the people queue behind you and ask, is this the queue? I think this is also a British thing that seems to happen in airports. When mass confusion occurs, stand out the way until confusion has died down, then make your move. It's a good strategy. When a Brit stands still, they form a queue of one. Nice. But queues also move, so that means a Brit is always in a queue. Mind-blowing. Holy crap, everything British just made sense. Welk's Chance said, you're always waiting for something. May as well make sure some bugger doesn't push in and get there before you. Yeah. Bothersome British says, yes, it would be quite bothersome. Catman 2021 says, as an American who lived in the UK for 2 years, I very quickly learned about the sanctity of the queue and the lengths that the Brits will go to maintain order. I've waited in queues for things and had no idea what we were queuing for, but I queued with them anyway out of fear of social consequences. Wow. Damn right you did. Wolf13I said, when in university, my ex did a social study with a group of people and started queuing at different locations. Enough people that you went around a corner for a decent length. People would join the queue just to see where it went fairly often. Really? I've waited in lines too many times to find out I was in the wrong line to do that. That's not fun. A Flood Behind says, I find queuing for a gig terribly stressful because you often find that the queue is so far from the door that you might actually be in a queue for something else without knowing. That's what I just said. And being British, you cannot ask the other people if they're in the queue for the thing you're going to. So you have to eavesdrop, slyly check out t-shirts to work out if you're in the right place. That's hilarious. He's so afraid of saying, excuse me, is this the queue for da-da-da? Oh no, that would be bothersome. Unfortunately, says it's like a national superpower. Thaddeus JP gave us a link that says, meanwhile in India, let's check it out. Life in India, the queue, government or bank official. Would-be customers, where you would normally queue, where everybody else will queue. Oh, like this is the line, and everybody else just kind of, yeah, that's annoying. The person that got behind the counter cracks me up. Reminds me of when I lived in Italy. When I moved back to the US, I had to relearn that strong elbows no longer equate to the right to be first. Wow. Well, it sounds like Italy is worse than America. In America, you might have a few people that try to skip lines, but it's not accepted. Like, there is some social pressure to not do that, at least. It's always the GD old Italian ladies. Oh, is this the line for airport security? I'm so confused, I walk to front with a puzzled look. Oh, that's a strategy. No one's gonna tell the old Italian lady she's wrong. That's how it works in pubs in the UK. We queue everywhere other than pubs. Is that true? I can't imagine that's true. Do y'all queue in the pubs? You have to. I can't imagine you don't queue in the pubs. Same in the US at bars. Everybody for themselves at the bar. Well, yeah. And you will be served in the following order. 1. Attractive females. 2. Females. 3. Attractive males. 4. Loud and pushy males. 5. Normal an attractive female. That's true. Oh, that's true. It's so hard to just stand there at the bar and trust that the bartender has seen you and knows that you're waiting. It's hard to not do this. I've heard that they hate this. And if you have money and you wave it, they hate it. It's so hard not to do that, though. Tipping well will allow you to move up to number 3 as an ugly male. Not in the UK where we don't tip. I find just leaning forward and getting good eye contact is the best. Yeah, stare them down, right? Exactly that. Once you lock eyes, they feel too guilty not to serve you. I don't know about that, but... And assuming the bar staff know their job and aren't feckless students, then everybody will be served in the order they arrived at the bar. Yeah, or if you're in Los Angeles. They don't care. They do not care. Or often if they go for a different person who arrived after, said person will nod to you and tell the bartender to serve you first. That doesn't happen. As a Brit who is ethnically Indian, this is bloody true and annoying. Talking about that photo, that picture. Wasn't India under British rule for more than a century? How did they pick up English and cricket, the most confusing and convoluted language and sport respectively, but failed to learn the mystical powers of standing in a line? The heat. Dear God, the heat. Everyone loses patience when you're uncomfortable as F and no way to get out. That's a good point. That's a good point. It's like when your eye itches. Nothing else matters all of a sudden. You just gotta scratch that eye. Like, it's the same with the heat. Mate. Constant drizzle, damp socks, and hair chafes to hell and leaves a nice wet dog odor. It's just more material to discuss with your neighbor for 20 seconds after you make eye contact, then go back to resolutely ignoring each other. The humidity in India during monsoon season is just effing stupid. I wanted to yell at everyone the whole time I was there. Why do you live here? It's so hot and it won't stop raining. I hate it here. I also caught dengue fever from a mosquito bite. Stayed overnight in a hospital and the whole thing only cost like $250. Don't care to imagine how much this would have cost at home in the USA. Oh, try $2,500 at least. Also, the food was great and playing cricket was so fun. Don't get any chances to play in Arkansas, USA. Okay. We went on an India tangent. Let's get back to Britain. Wait. Okay, sorry. One more India thing. Meanwhile, in India, people in India line up extremely close together. Oh my God. Whoa. I would not like that. That's too close. Oh, I've seen several pictures like this where they are literally touching front and back because if there's any space between them, apparently people will squeeze in there. I don't know why they just don't get thrown out when they attempt that. Yeah. Also applies to China and anywhere else in the world where mainland Chinese are in mass numbers. Okay, I don't want this to get to like
ตอนนี้นะคะกำลังต่อคิวกำลังจะแท็กรีฟันกันนะคะต่อจากคลิปแรกนะคะสำหรับทัวร์คนจีนเดี๋ยวจะหาว่าจากขี้โม้ซึ่งตอนนี้เนี่ยจริงๆต่อคิวกันมันจะต้องมีแค่1แถวถูกปะเขาถึงได้เรียกกันว่าต่อคิวแต่ตอนนี้พอทัวร์จีนลงมาปุ๊บตอนแรกก็ยืนกันอยู่ดีๆพอทัวร์จีนมาปุ๊บดูมันไม่มีคำว่ามารยาทมันไม่มีคำว่าแถวมันไม่มีคำว่าระเบียบอะไรเลยเฮ้ยงงอ่ะคนหลายชนชาตินะหลายเชื้อชาติมากมาต่อคิวอยู่ตรงนี้กันอยู่ดีๆพอทัวร์จีนลงปุ๊บแม่งเป็นอย่างนี้ทันทีค่ะดูคืออะไรอ่ะ
Okay, I don't let's this is getting let's skip ahead. You know what I mean? These three guys probably thought their wardrobe choice that morning was pretty hip and cool until this happened. What do you mean? Oh. There's three guys with the same flannel shirt on. Isn't that funny how that happens when you're in a long line like that? Like security at the airport, you see the same people because you're going back and forth. It's funny how that happens. Anyway, well, it's an Ed Sheeran concert, so a check shirt probably helps if you want some Okay, what is this? I'm British, I know how to cue. Oh, that looks familiar. Is that, that's, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? This is why Obama made a terrible mistake when he came out publicly and said that the UK would be at the back of the queue for a trade deal if we left the EU. We live for being at the back of the queue. Nothing like standing in the back of a queue complaining about the queue. Wow, this comment's 8 years old. A lot has happened since then, right? Then being at the front of the queue and looking back at how far you've come, those poor bastards in the back don't understand the struggle yet, but they will. You forgot looking back at the queue and saying, we got here at the right time, even though the queue is the same length as when you arrived. I feel like, yeah, say that a lot when you're at a restaurant and you get a table and then you see the line for the restaurant. We got here at the right time. Or getting increasingly irritated when no one else joins the queue after you and it just keeps getting shorter with you at the back. Hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way. Oh, that's a Pink Floyd lyric. Pink Floyd. The queue is gone. My wait is over. Wish I'd something more to say. Funny. Queue again. I like to be here when I can. Queued so long I'm cold and tired. I stare ahead and still withstand the mire. Far away, across the hall, I hear the clerk begin to call. Next in line, please come along. My lurch ahead is barely inches long. These are brilliant. These people should be songwriters. There's so much queuing going on in this picture that the people in the top of the photo look out of place not being in a queue. I remember when I was once at an Italian airport flying to the UK, the announcer said first in Italian and then in English that they were now boarding. The Italians formed a giant circle of pushing, poking, and very loud talking, while the Brits formed a perfect, quiet line and looked on in disgust at the Italians. One older British man said under his breath, behaving like animals, the lot of them. I, as the only North American and being both Canadian, which understood the British side, and American, which understood the Italian side, looked on in the middle, torn, deciding which of the two factions I would join. I had a hard decision to make that day and chose the British side. Good choice. But damn if I didn't want to join the Italians in their fun and wanton disregard of rules. I don't think that would be fun. That would bother me. That's annoying. Some regions in the U.S. queue properly. The beer line is a sacred thing in the South. It's a free-for-all during Black Friday, though. That's true. Oh my God. You'd be surprised. Black Friday in the South is chaotic, but everyone's polite and respectful. In the North, consider yourself lucky if you escape Walmart, Best Buy, etc. without getting punched in the face. Wow. Yeah, Southern hospitality is real. It really is. In the Pacific Northwest, we just shop on Amazon on Black Friday. For you guys in the Pacific Northwest, isn't that just buying local anyway? Yes, it's very important. I also buy my operating systems from a local non-GMO supplier. Because Microsoft is in the Pacific Northwest. In my experience, we mostly observe line etiquette in the US, the biggest exception being driving. Yeah. Is it weird that I feel proud? No. You should feel proud. Not at all. To me, it shows decency and respect to those around you. Yes. And by God, if anyone cuts in front of me, they're in for serious tutting. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong when people cut in front of me. I'm not tutting. Is that how you do it? Sometimes I don't even tut. I just silently but violently judge them. That's usually what I do. There is an exception to the Great British queue. Waiting to get served at the bar in a pub. Oh yeah, someone else said that. I was gobsmacked this weekend when I saw people queuing. I mean, it's literally the first time I've ever seen that in a pub. Another guy remarked on it also, just before walking off shaking his head. Madness. A queue does sort of exist at a bar, albeit an informal one. Like if the barmaid walks over and shouts, "Who's next?" you will typically get a few guys nod at or motion their hands toward whoever has been waiting the longest. Respect. I like that. In the absence of a physical cue, we form a hive mind and mentally cue instead. That's important. The British hive mind. Yep, bus stops work this way too. To avoid awkwardly sitting next to people at the stop, we just hang around willy-nilly until we see the bus coming, at which point a queue magically forms in the order that people arrived. What? That's amazing. And here we see how a pathological desire for order can conquer the effing world. Well said. Well said. Rule Q Britannia. Humor aside, the British aren't particularly motivated by order or control. The Q ethos is more to do with fair play and the idea that the first person to arrive is entitled, by the accident of timing or advanced planning, to be admitted, served before the next person to arrive. And if everybody agrees to the system, it's relatively unstressful and not likely to end in a massive punch-up. Cheers. Cheers. But beware, the Brits don't accept proxies when it comes to queuing positions, and that particularly includes inanimate queuing markers like beach towels. The Germans in particular don't seem to understand this. As an aside, you sometimes see questions along the line of, what concepts do you have a word for in your language that doesn't exist in English? But the other way around is that many other languages have no simple expression for fair play. Really? It has been a while, but last time I watched Mexican soccer, they literally used the phrase fair play without translating it. Oh, they said it in English? Fair play was coined by Shakespeare. Another Shakespeare brilliant concept. It's not uncommon to use foreign words, but there's juego limpio for fair play. Oh, this person said, I've been searching the image to try to find some anarchist between the lanes, but I concede it's perfectly ordered. If there was, they wouldn't be British, and they would be dealt with strong tutting. The bottom right of the image, not using up the available space for the turn, is really buttering my crumpet. I remember being filled with pride one Christmas when doing the big shop on Christmas Eve. The queues for the checkouts were about 20 people long, going right back up the aisle, but every single queue had self-ordered, so they started at the end of the aisle, not in front of the tills, so that the horizontal aisle was not blocked, and you could still stroll up and down it. It was beautiful. Even in the Christmas chaos, we all knew the rules. Edit, I found pictures. This is looking left and right down the horizontal aisle. In the first picture, the tills are on the right and the queues are on the left. Let's look at this photo. Show me. Yes, I see. The registers are on the right and people are lining up on the left, so you can still walk down that main. The promised land. Makes me proud to be British. Looks a bit too sloppy for my tastes. What? A few of those people are veering dangerously close to being ambiguously in two queues at once. Probably tourists, definitely French. Frenchmen haven't toured England in 1,000 years. Nobody stands by peacefully waiting like the Brits. Nobody. The Japanese are pretty impressive too. You are young, and life is long. There is time to queue today. Person living in the GB here. I was once in London and standing by a door in Euston train station on my phone texting someone. I turned around and 3 people were lined up behind me. No joke. I walked away without asking what they were doing because it creeped me out. But in retrospect, it was funny. That's great. Happened to me in the cinema. We'd got there early, so stood to one side near the entrance to the screen just to have a chat. It was only a couple of minutes later we noticed people had started lining up behind us. Our accidental queue got so long it reached back to the lobby area, getting in the way of the concession stands. The cinema staff eventually came along and asked us to move it, so off we went with all these people following obediently behind us to the new designated queuing area. It was beautiful. That's amazing. Ah yes, the accidental conga line. Makes me proud to be British. That sounds beautiful. It should be a short, and it should win awards. Brit here have, on more than one occasion, formed or joined accidental queues. I was walking to enter a room for an exam whilst a uni and leant against the wall by a door close to the exam hall. About 240 other students neatly placed themselves behind me in an orderly fashion until it became clear the door I was leant next to wasn't for the exam hall, but was a door to disused classroom, whereupon we all moved in formation, queue intact, to wait outside the correct room, like a line of soldier ants. It was quite beautiful. One time I saw 3 people outside the post office and joined what I thought was the queue to get in, until I realized the post office was closed. I don't to this day know if they were also queuing to get into the closed post office, or if they just saw a queue forming and did what comes naturally to a Brit and joined the back of it. There's actually a few of our universities that have queuing societies. They'll basically just all meet up somewhere, start a queue, and wait for people to join. Once enough other people have joined, they'll just all start to filter out and leave the queue to carry on its own. What? I can understand that happening on accident, but if you're lining up for something, you should know what it's for, right? I think it's important to note that we don't like queues, but we do have an overpowering hatred of the lack of queues. I'm British, and the only time I've ever lost my patience in public was over queue jumpers. You think we all just queue for the fun of it? Get in line, you animal. Even at the Glastonbury Festival, where enter the food pyramid, people still queue at the bar. Why do Americans make a big deal about the fact that we queue in an orderly fashion? Isn't it just common courtesy and not being a complete jackass to queue and wait your turn? It's courtesy, but it's not common. You mean you're not supposed to just crowd up in a big clump that gets wider the further back it gets? This is what civilized society looks like. Good job, Brits. Yes. Good job. I feel like the branching queues so common in the States would give a Brit an aneurysm. Probably. Amazing. What are they queuing for? This is just a practice queue. They do it every day, just in case. Someone sounded the alarm. Worry not, this is just our drill. But mark my words, when the time comes, when the hour is nigh, we will be ready. Let's end on this one, y'all. This is what makes the English people so great. A sense of order and decency. The idea of fair play. No true Englishman would dream of pushing in front of someone who had been queuing there before them. Why can't we all do this? Americans, take note. Please. Please. Well, y'all, this has been fascinating. I knew queuing was a thing, but I didn't know the degree to which it is a thing. Let's just look at this photo one more time. Amazing. Amazing. Look at these people. That's a complicated line, too. There's like groups of people. Amazing. They're all leaving the same amount of space in between. How? Amazing. Be proud of yourself. Truly amazing. Well, thanks for watching this with me. I'd like to say thanks to my patrons. Thanks to my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time.